The warning wasn't written in any language the Solinari recognized. It had been carved into the inside of an ancient airlock. Not with tools. Not with lasers. With human fingernails. 3 jagged words stretched across the rust-darkened steel. Do not wake the gray ship. Captain Relther had boarded more than 3,000 derelict vessels during his 32 years as commander of the Solinari Recovery Corps. He had stepped through pirate cruisers whose crews had turned on each other. He had explored plague ships drifting with thousands of silent corpses. He had even entered the hollow remains of civilizations swallowed by dying stars. None of them had ever made him hesitate. This ship did. And before the day was over, everything the galaxy believed about humanity would begin to unravel. The salvage vessel Quiet Current emerged from hyperspace in absolute silence. No shipping lanes crossed this region. No colonies claimed it. Even automated navigation systems marked the sector with a single recommendation. Avoid. Not because it was dangerous, because nothing had ever been found here. Until today. Contact. Navigator Selex's calm voice echoed across the bridge. A single white dot appeared on the holographic display. Motionless. Cold. Drifting between the scattered debris of dead asteroids. Relther rose from his command chair. Magnify. The image expanded. The bridge fell unusually quiet. The vessel was unlike anything in the galactic registry. It possessed none of the graceful curves favored by modern civilizations. No polished alloys reflected distant starlight. No elegant energy veins decorated its hull. Instead, it looked brutally practical. Layer upon layer of thick armor plates overlapped one another like the scales of some prehistoric beast. Every surface carried scars, deep gouges, burn marks, crater-sized impact wounds. Yet, despite centuries of punishment, the vessel remained intact. Engineer Vesic folded his upper arms. That thing is hideous. Relther didn't answer immediately. He studied the ship. Every scratch seemed earned. Every dent suggested survival rather than neglect. Finally he spoke. No. His silver eyes never left the display. It looks like it was built by people who expected to be hit. Silence answered him. No one argued, because somehow, that explanation felt disturbingly correct. Running identification. Blue symbols danced across Selex's console. Several long seconds passed. Then the archive responded. Vessel origin, human. A ripple of amusement spread through the bridge. Humans? Vesic actually laughed. I thought they vanished centuries ago. They did, another officer replied. The archives say they destroyed themselves before achieving significant interstellar expansion. The database classifies their military technology as primitive. Salvage value? Minimal. Someone shrugged. Easy mission. Relther remained strangely unconvinced. His instincts had kept him alive longer than statistics ever had. Something about the vessel felt wrong. Not threatening. Watching. He dismissed the thought. Ships couldn't watch. Could they? Minutes later, the boarding shuttle crossed the final kilometers. As it approached, the gray ship seemed to grow larger than sensors had suggested. Not longer. Heavier. Like a mountain suspended in vacuum. Thousands of tiny impacts scarred its hull. Entire armor sections had been replaced by rough welded plates. There was beauty in modern starship design. This vessel possessed something else. Determination. The shuttle touched against the outer docking ring. Magnetic clamps locked into place. No alarms sounded. No defensive systems activated. Only silence. Relther stepped toward the airlock. His helmet lights swept across the entrance. That was when he saw it. The words. Carved into the metal. Not engraved. Not painted. Scratched. Each groove uneven. Desperate. Deep enough that whoever had written them must have torn away their own fingernails. Do not wake the gray ship. Nobody spoke. Engineer Vesic finally broke the silence. That's... He couldn't finish. Relther placed one gloved hand against the scarred letters. They weren't old. Or rather, time had aged the metal. But not the emotion behind them. Someone had stood here knowing they were about to die. And this This had been the last warning they chose to leave behind. "We continue." Even as he gave the order, something inside him wished he hadn't. The inner hatch opened with surprising ease. A rush of stale air escaped. Not vacuum. The life support systems were still functioning. Every member of the boarding team froze. Impossible. Engineer Vesic checked his scanner twice. Then 3 times. Oxygen. Atmosphere stable. Carbon dioxide regulation operational. Relther frowned. "How long?" Vesic stared at the readings. "If these systems have been running continuously," his voice became almost a whisper. "Hundreds of years." Nobody moved. Ancient reactors didn't simply continue working. Not without maintenance. Not without crews. Not without purpose. Yet somewhere beneath their feet, machines were still faithfully doing the jobs they'd been given centuries earlier. Waiting. For whom? The corridor beyond was lit by dim amber emergency lights. Unlike alien vessels filled with floating holograms and polished crystal interfaces, everything here felt physical. Steel. Bolts. Manual valves. Mechanical switches. Pipes ran openly across the ceiling. Relther paused beside a thick will mounted on one bulkhead. A manual pressure seal. Vesic blinked. They expected electronics to fail. They expected everything to fail. Relther corrected him quietly. And they prepared anyway. Every corridor told the same story. Nothing decorative. Nothing unnecessary. Every gram of material served a purpose. Strength. Redundancy. Survival. Suddenly, primitive no longer seemed like the correct word. They entered what appeared to be a crew commons. Metal tables stood bolted to the floor. Playing cards lay scattered where they had fallen. A ceramic mug still rested beside one chair. Inside, dark liquid had long since evaporated, leaving only a ring along the bottom. Someone had been drinking coffee. Someone who never came back. Relther noticed photographs attached to a nearby wall. Real paper. Children. Families. Birthdays. A beach beneath an impossibly blue sky. Engineer Vesic stared. They carried printed memories? Relther nodded slowly. So they couldn't lose them if the power failed. No one laughed anymore. Then Selec's scanner beeped. "Captain." Everyone turned. "I found the bridge." Relther looked toward the heavy blast doors at the far end of the corridor. They were closed. Not damaged. Locked. From the inside, the captain felt a chill run beneath his armor. If the doors had been sealed from within, who had closed them? And more importantly, why? He stepped forward, placed his hand against the manual release wheel, and slowly began to turn it. The mechanism groaned. Somewhere deep inside the gray ship, something answered. A single, distant metallic sound. Clang. Not an echo. A response. The boarding team looked at one another. No one spoke, because every one of them had reached the same impossible conclusion. They were no longer certain. They were alone. The metallic clang echoed through the corridor. Once. Then silence. Captain Relther slowly raised a hand. The boarding team froze. Every weapon came up in perfect synchronization. No one breathed. No one spoke. The sound had not echoed through the ship. It had echoed from somewhere ahead. The amber emergency lights flickered once before stabilizing. Somewhere deep inside the gray ship, ancient machinery awakened. A faint vibration traveled through the floor beneath their boots. Engineer Vesic swallowed. "Captain, I know. No reactor this old should still be responding." Relther kept his eyes fixed on the massive blast door. "It isn't." Vesic frowned. "What?" "It isn't waking." Relther's voice became quieter. It was already awake. The words settled over the team like ice. The bridge door finally unlocked. Not electronically. Mechanically. Huge steel bolts retracted one after another with slow, grinding force. Thunk. 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 Each sounded like the heartbeat of a giant. When the final lock disengaged, the door drifted open only a few centimeters. Cold air escaped, carried something unexpected. The faint scent of burned electronics. An old coffee. Vesic stared. How can there still be a smell? No one answered. Relther pushed T-heavy door fully open. The bridge looked nothing like Solinari command centers. No floating holograms. No elegant crystal interfaces. No seamless touch displays. Instead, rows of physical switches, steel levers, analog gauges, mechanical keyboards. Every station looked as though it had been designed to survive an explosion. The ceiling bore deep scars. Several consoles had been melted by weapons fire. Yet every chair remained facing forward. No signs of panic. No overturned equipment. No abandoned weapons. The crew had stayed at their stations until the end. Navigator Selleck slowly walked toward the command console. "Captain, you should see this." Relther approached. Across the central display someone had attached dozens of handwritten notes. Not digital. Paper. Each held in place with yellowed adhesive tape. Some contained coordinates. Others listed power consumption. One simply read, "Don't let them through." No signature. No explanation. Just 5 words. Relther stared longer than he expected. Somehow, those words felt heavier than any military order. Then Vesic noticed something on the flue. A helmet. Old. Scratched. Human. It rested beside the captain's chair exactly where someone had placed it. There was no skeleton inside. No body nearby. Only the helmet. Relther carefully lifted it. The visor had cracked during battle. Across the forehead someone had written with white paint, "Mason." Just a name. Nothing more. Yet suddenly, the bridge no longer felt abandoned. Felt remembered. A soft electronic chime interrupted the silence. One console had powered itself. Its monitor flickered weakly. Green letters slowly appeared across the ancient screen. "Ship log available." Vesic looked at Relther. "It still works." Relther nodded once. "Play it." The screen filled with static. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, a human face appeared. The recording quality was poor. His uniform was torn. One side of his face carried dried blood. Behind him, the bridge shook from distant explosions. Despite everything, the captain smiled. Not confidently, not proudly. Simply, calmly. "My name is Captain Elias Ward. If you're watching this." Then someone finally found us. He glanced briefly toward someone off camera. A faint laugh escaped him. "No. I suppose that's wrong. If you're watching this, then Earth survived." The Solinari exchanged confused glances. Ward continued. "We've been holding this position for..." He looked toward another officer. "What day is it?" A tired voice answered. "Day 412. Ward nodded. 412 days. He smiled again. "I honestly thought it'd only take a week." Even Vesic forgot to breathe. For 100 days? Holding what? Against whom? The recording rackled. Explosions rocked the bridge. Dust fell from the ceiling. Yet no one moved. Every human remained calmly performing their duties. Someone in the background quietly reported, "Enemy fleet entering weapons range." Another answered, "Reloading." No fear. No screaming. Only routine. Like workers beginning another shift. Ward looked back into the camera. "If this reaches anyone, tell them." He stopped. His smile disappeared. "Tell them. We kept our promise." Static swallowed the recording. The monitor went black. No one aboard the gray ship spoke. Not because they didn't understand the words. Because they did. Whatever humanity had faced, these people had chosen to stay. Vesic finally whispered, 400 days. Relther slowly looked around the shattered bridge. Every chair still occupied. Every station still manned until the last second. Primitive? No. This was discipline unlike anything he had ever witnessed. And for the first time in his career, Captain Relther wondered if the galactic archives had been built on a lie. The silence on the bridge felt heavier than before. No one moved. No one spoke. Captain Elias Ward's final words still echoed through the ancient command deck. "We kept our promise." Relther slowly lowered his weapon. "Replay the recording." The monitor flickered. Static. Then darkness. Finally, file corrupted. Only a single menu remained. Archive database. One file recovered. 27,481 files damaged. Vesic looked at the captain. There has to be more. Relther nodded. Recover everything. The ancient computer groaned to life. Hard drives spun. Cooling fans screamed after centuries of silence. Lines of data raced across the monitor. Recovering, searching, repairing. Then, a new folder appeared. External battle recordings. Everyone leaned closer. The first camera activated. The bridge windows became a live recording from centuries ago. At first, Relther didn't understand what he was seeing. Thousands of stars. Then movement. Ships. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. An entire alien armada filled space from horizon to horizon. Vesic whispered, "That's impossible." The fleet stretched farther than the cameras could capture. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, massive dreadnoughts, enough firepower to erase civilizations. Yet, only one ship stood between them, the gray ship. The recording advanced. Enemy weapons ignited. Brilliant beams crossed the darkness. Missiles filled space. The gray ship disappeared inside an ocean of explosions. Several Solinari instinctively stepped backward. No ship survives that. The explosions faded. There it was, scarred, burning, still moving, still firing. Another recording began. Day 19. The gray ship remained alone. More enemy wreckage drifted through space. Another recording. Day 67. The ship had lost half its engines. It still refused to retreat. Another. Day 144. Sections of the hull had been torn away, yet its guns continued firing. Another. Day 231. No reinforcements. No escape. Only the gray ship, standing alone. Again. And again. And again. The bridge became silent. Not because of fear, because no one could comprehend what they were watching. One ship, holding back an entire fleet. For over a year, Navigator Selek finally broke the silence. Where was the human armada? Nobody answered. Another recording loaded. This one showed the bridge. Captain Ward stood exactly where Relther stood now. A younger officer rushed toward him. "Sir, our last escort has been destroyed." Ward nodded calmly. "So, we're alone." The officer hesitated. "Should we fall back?" Ward looked toward Earth, visible as a tiny blue light on the tactical display. Then he smiled. "No. If we leave, they reach home." The bridge fell silent. Not a single crew member argued. Not one questioned the order. Everyone simply returned to their stations. The recording ended. Relther stared at the empty captain's chair. "They knew," Vesic answered quietly. "They knew they were going to die." "Yes. And they stayed." The ancient compter chimed again. Tactical report found. The damaged file slowly decrypted. Most of the text had been destroyed. Only fragments remained. Enemy fleet strength. 18,642 vessels. Another line appeared. Human defensive fleet. 1 operational vessel. No one spoke. The numbers remained on the screen. Impossible. Unbelievable. Yet undeniable. The final line slowly appeared. It was marked as the battle's conclusion. Relther leaned closer. The computer translated the ancient human text. Mission status. Success. Vesic frowned. Success? How? The gray ship had been destroyed. Its crew had vanished. There were no surviving humans aboard. So how? Then Selek looked toward the star map. His eyes widened. "Captain!" Everyone turned. Earth, the tiny blue icon, still existed. Ward hadn't won the battle. He had won something far greater. He had bought enough time for humanity to survive. The bridge lights suddenly shifted from amber to crimson. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the ship. The bridge trembled. Not from weapons fire. Not from explosions. Something far larger had awakened. Across every console, crimson warning lights flashed in perfect synchronization. Defensive protocols online. Fleet synchronization, 3%. Relther's pulse quickened. Outside the bridge windows, darkness itself seemed to move. At first, he thought his eyes were deceiving him. Then another amber light appeared. Then another. And another. Thousands. One by one, tiny points of light ignited across the battlefield like stars returning to life. Navigator Selek rushed to the observation window. "Captain!" His voice barely escaped his throat. Relther stepped beside him. The graveyard wasn't a graveyard. It was a fleet. Hundreds of immense human warships emerged from centuries of silence, their scarred hulls reflecting the faint starlight. Massive carriers, angular destroyers, missile cruisers, and colossal dreadnoughts stretched across the void in disciplined formation. Every ship looked dead. Every ship was waking. Blue engine cores flickered to life. Ancient running lights illuminated forgotten hull numbers. Communication arrays unfolded. Weapons slowly rotated into standby positions. The battlefield, silent for centuries, had begun to breathe again. Vesic stared in disbelief. "This can't be." Relther whispered. They were never abandoned. They were waiting. The realization settled over the bridge like cold steel. The gray ship hadn't been the last survivor. It had been the gatekeeper. Suddenly every display changed. A single line of text appeared. "Welcome home." The words echoed across every screen. Not "intruder detected." Not "unauthorized access." "Welcome home." The aliens exchanged confused glances. "We're not human." "No," Relther answered. But someone wanted whoever found this fleet to understand. The tactical map expanded. Thousands of icons filled the display. Green. Every human vessel was marked green. No enemy contacts. No active war. The battle had ended centuries ago. Yet the fleet had remained exactly where it had fought. Still guarding the route to Earth. Still waiting for orders that would never come. The ship's computer chimed once more. A calm synthetic voice filled the bridge. Awaiting confirmation. Has Earth survived? Silence. No one knew how to answer. Relther slowly stepped toward the command console. "Yes." His voice was barely above a whisper. "I believe it has." The computer remained silent for several long seconds. Then, every light aboard the gray ship changed from crimson to white. Mission complete. Across the battlefield, every awakened human warship answered. White lights ignited from bow to stern, like candles in the darkness. One after another. Hundreds, then thousands. The fleet wasn't preparing for war. It was honoring its fallen. Relther felt something he had never experienced before. Respect. Not for humanity's technology. Not for their weapons. For their unwavering promise. They had stood alone. They had expected no rescue. No glory. No audience. Only the hope that somewhere, Earth would survive. And somehow, it had. The bridge remained silent. Thousands of human warships floated beyond the windows, their white running lights glowing like a constellation reborn. No engines roared. No weapons charged. No fleet maneuvered. They simply waited. The computer spoke again. Mission archived. Displaying final command authorization. A hidden compartment slid open beneath the captain's console. Inside rested a small metal case. Unlike every machine aboard the gray ship, this object was immaculate. No rust. No dust. No battle scars. Captain Relther carefully lifted it onto the command table. The lid unlocked with a soft click. Inside, there was no weapon, no advanced technology, only a worn leather journal. Vesic frowned. A book. Relther opened the first page. The handwriting was unmistakably human. Captain's journal. Day 1. If you're reading this, then our mission is over. History will probably forget our names. That's acceptable. History should remember the people who lived because we stayed. The bridge fell silent once more. Relther slowly turned the page. Day 43. Crew morale remains high. Chief Mason somehow made coffee again. Nobody knows where he keeps finding beans. A few of the Solinari looked at one another. Even during a hopeless war, the humans joked. Another page. Day 158. Private Ellis became a father today. His daughter was born on Earth. He cried for 20 minutes, then returned to his station without being ordered. Vesic lowered his eyes. He never even met her. Relther quietly replied, "No." He fought so she could grow up. Another page. The handwriting had become shaky. Day 307. Food almost gone. Half the ship has no heating. Nobody has complained. They still smile every morning. Another page. Day 411. Tomorrow will probably be our last battle. Nobody asked for permission to leave. Not one. Relther's hands trembled as he turned the final page. Only one final message. To whoever finds us. Please don't remember us because we won. Remember us because when everything else failed, we didn't. Take care of Earth. Promise me that. Signed simply, Captain Elias Ward. No one spoke. For the first time in his life, Captain Relther removed the ceremonial crest from his uniform. He laid it beside the journal. Among the Solinari, it was the highest sign of respect one warrior could offer another. One by one, every member of the salvage crew followed. The bridge floor slowly filled with silver crests, not because protocol demanded it, because their hearts did. Suddenly the tactical display changed again. The AI spoke with surprising warmth. Final request acknowledged. Scanning Earth, the bridge held its breath. Seconds passed. Then the star map shifted. A blue world appeared. Clouds drifted across its oceans. Cities sparkled on the night side. Green forests stretched across continents. Earth, alive. The AI remained silent for several seconds. Then, for the first time, its voice carried unmistakable emotion. Home. Survived. Across the battlefield, every human ship answered. Their lights brightened together, not as a battle formation, but as a farewell. Then, one by one, engines powered down. The ancient fleet returned to silence. Their watch was finally over. Relther looked through the bridge window at the countless ships resting peacefully in the darkness. They waited centuries. Vesic nodded. So they could hear one sentence. Relther whispered, "And now, they can finally rest." Far beyond the gray ship, the stars burned quietly over the greatest battlefield the galaxy had ever forgotten. For centuries, the galaxy had believed humanity vanished without leaving a legacy. They were wrong. Humanity's greatest legacy was never its weapons. It was a promise kept until the very end. The gray ship drifted silently once more. The countless human warships surrounding it had powered down, their centuries-long vigil finally complete. For the first time in over 600 years, there was peace. Captain Relther stood alone before the observation window, staring into the endless sea of silent ships. The galaxy had called humans reckless, primitive, violent, but history had been written by those who never witnessed this battlefield. History had been wrong. The bridge lights softened to a warm white. The ship's AI spoke one final time. Mission archive complete. Would you like to view humanity's final directive? Relther answered without hesitation. Yes. A hologram rose from the center of the bridge. Captain Elias Ward appeared once again. But this time he wasn't wearing battle armor. He wore a simple Earth Navy uniform, smiling faintly. His face looked tired, yet peaceful. If you're seeing this, then our watch is finally over. I don't know who you are. I don't know what species you belong to. And honestly, I hope none of that matters anymore. He looked directly into the camera. If you're standing on this bridge, then you survived. And if you survived, then maybe we did our job. The hologram shifted. Images filled the bridge. Children running through parks. Families eating together. Cities alive with laughter. Scientists launching peaceful spacecraft. Teachers standing before classrooms. Doctors saving lives. Musicians performing. Artists painting. farmers harvesting crops, ordinary people. Ward smiled. This is why we stayed. Not because humans are special, but because every child deserves another sunrise. The bridge fell completely silent. Even the AI stopped speaking. Ward continued. We built incredible weapons. But we prayed. They would never need to be used again. If this fleet ever wakes, it means someone found us. So please, don't rebuild another war. Build something better. Relther slowly lowered his head. Every member of the Solinari crew stood motionless. Not because they were ordered to, because every word carried the weight of unimaginable sacrifice. Suddenly, the hologram displayed one final file. The last roll call. Thousands of names appeared. Crew members, pilots, engineers, medics, security officers, cooks, mechanics, every human who had served aboard the fleet. Beside every name, one word, present. Vesic frowned. There. Relther nodded. They never considered themselves gone. They were still standing watch. The AI spoke softly. Final request pending. A small message appeared beneath the roll call. Please remember our names once, then live your own story. Relther closed his eyes. We will. Across the battlefield, the gray ship emitted a single pulse of white light. It spread through every sleeping vessel. One by one, the ships dissolved into countless shimmering particles. Not exploding, not burning, simply fading away, like stardust returning to the universe. The fleet that had defended Earth disappeared peacefully into the stars. There would be no trophies, no monuments, no victory parade, only a memory. Months later, representatives from every known civilization gathered in the Grand Galactic Council. The enormous chamber had always celebrated conquest, military strength, political power. But today, no one spoke. At the center of the hall stood a single object. Captain Elias Ward's worn leather journal, untouched, exactly as it had been found. Relther approached the podium. For the first time in recorded history, the proud Solinari captain removed every military decoration from his uniform before speaking. He placed them beside the journal. One by one, every ambassador in the chamber did the same. Relther looked across the assembly. For centuries, we taught our children that humanity disappeared. We were wrong. They did not disappear. They stood between the galaxy and extinction. They asked for nothing. They expected nothing. They simply kept their promise. He paused. His voice grew quieter. The greatest civilization is not the one that conquers. It is the one willing to stand alone, so others never have to fight. The chamber remained silent. Not out of protocol, out of respect. Outside the council station, workers unveiled a new monument. It wasn't a statue of a king, or an emperor, or a conqueror. It was a simple gray ship, scarred, battle-worn, still facing forward. Beneath it, engraved in every known language, were the final words of Captain Elias Ward. Remember us, not because we won. Remember us because when everything else failed, we didn't. Far beyond the council, in the endless darkness between the stars, the place where the gray ship had made its final stand remained untouched. No ships harvested the wreckage. No salvagers entered. No empire claimed it. It became sacred ground. And whenever young cadets asked why an entire region of space was forever protected, their teachers gave the same answer. Because that's where humanity kept its promise. And for as long as the stars endured, the galaxy never forgot again.